Welcome to our first installment that you'll see the entire month of March here on 1070 The Fan's YouTube channel. A couple of guys that know a thing or two about high school basketball, especially the one to my right. That would be Bob Lovell, celebrating the 50th anniversary of his sectional championship for his beloved Plainfield Quakers, as he was telling me about off the air. My name is Greg Rakestraw, and between the two of us, we're covering 7 of the 4 boys high school basketball state championship games. Our specialty isn't math. Our specialty is basketball. So, Coach, let's get right to it. Tons of great games in 4A tonight. Let's start with the game that you can hear on 107.5 FM and 1070 The Fan. That would be Lawrence North and the defending state champs, Warren Central. When these two played back in January, Warriors won by 9. What do you expect this evening?
I think a defensive battle. I just think if you're Warren Central, you really are the epitome of defense wins champions.
Yep.
I mean, when you talk about it, and as cliched as it sounds, it's actually true. I mean, what they were able to do last year was astounding. What they've done this year to back that up, I think, is almost as remarkable, to only lose 2 games and playing the schedule that they play. Low volume possession kind of game. David Bell, the kind of big play player. But this is one where you don't expect to see it. Probably into the 50s would be a reasonable expectation. But it gets down to you have to be able to score at some crucial times. It's hard to do against Warren Central. It really is. And so, again, the first time they played a 9-point ball game, I would think you see something like that even closer.
David Bell did not play the first time
Right.
these two teams played. He came back the following week after his football season, dealing with a high ankle sprain late in the football season. Again, Bell has only averaged about 8 points a game. I say only because last year he was their leading scorer at about 13 points per game. But again, frankly, this is winning time for Warren Central. It's when you expect a guy like David Bell to step to the forefront.
Well, we got a chance to see him in that semi-state
Yeah.
game where he knocked down that game winner, and that's the kind of player he is. And so he's also a guy defensively can take Lawrence North's best player out. I mean, he is that good, and I think that's having that defensive stopper, a guy who can make big plays. Jesse Bingham has played well. They are just a team that guards you from end line to end line for 32 minutes and makes every shot you take a difficult thing to do. And that's why, obviously, I think they're in the hunt for another championship.
That best player for Lawrence North is Jared Hankins, going to play for Greg Lansing at Indiana State next year, averaging 18 points per game, 43% of the season from three-point range. So expect that as the likely defensive matchup in this evening's contest. Elsewhere, the next game I want to get to is in sectional number 11. Ben Davis and Pike. The likely winner in this game would be the favorite over either Decatur Central or Roncalli tomorrow night. We've had the chance to see Ben Davis a lot the last couple of years. You and I, we have one of our favorite players in the area is DeJuan Jones from Ben Davis. 6'8" and 350 is going to play tackle at Ohio State. Frankly, he's a Division I level basketball player. They've got 4 Division I athletes in that starting 5 for Ben Davis. Only one of them going to play basketball. That's Jalen Wyndham, who will play for our friend Ron Hunter at Georgia State. Your thoughts about Beatty and Pike tonight?
Well, Ben Davis, you mentioned DeJuan, is just a fun player to watch.
Yes, absolutely.
He's 6'8", 350, but what amazes you is his basketball skills. And I think more than anything that you like about him is the enthusiasm and emotion and the passion he plays.
Yeah.
He loves to play the game. The Wendland-DeJuan inside-out combination is tough. Remember, Wendland is the guy who hits the big shots back in the championship run down the stretch. And so guys understand what it's about. It's a Pike team that has, I think in some respects, overachieved. They've just played so well, so consistently. Once they got past December, got into January, started to really play, they're a team. The big issue is how do you match up inside.
Right.
I mean, that's the big thing, and you've got to be able to score some points inside. And so Ben Davis is really starting to play well right now. Pike has continued to play. I think this is a great matchup, but again, I think the big question is if you're Pike, you got to be able to stop the big guy inside, and you got to figure out a way to score.
I would not be invited back for next week's regional preview round if it were not for Plainfield and Avon, some level of preview, given the Quakers scored a huge upset. Maybe one of the larger upsets of the first night of the sectional and beating Brownsburg. Not because Plainfield's bad, no, far from it. Andy Weaver's team is really good this year. But the previous times they had played Brownsburg had lost by 20 and 22. Quakers found a way to get it done on Tuesday night. Give me your thoughts on the Quakers and the Orioles.
I think they're channeling that 50-year experience where we were able to win the championship. And so, we saw them against Franklin in a couple weeks before the end of the regular season, and they were a little disjointed in that game. But again, we all talk about playing a team for the third time and how that changes the dynamic of what's going on. These are 16, 17, 18-year-old kids, and it was a big win. I mean, Plainfield's a talented team. They've won 17, 18 ball games, so they didn't get to this point by not being good, and they're a balanced team and have some really potent weapons. Avon gives them a different challenge.
Right.
They really are. I mean, Avon with the bye is a talented team, has played well. But, I'm happy, obviously, for my Quakers to be in this position.
And these two teams get up and down more against each other with Plainfield and Avon than, say, Brownsburg 1-2, which really is a very good defensive team, especially in the half court. Fishers and Carmel certainly deserves a mention as well. Carmel, the number one team in the state. This is likely their biggest challenge, although Noblesville played Carmel very close back in December. Noblesville and HSE is the other semifinal, that all Hamilton County affair at the Eric Clark Activity Center tonight. We'll quickly get to some thoughts on 3A and 2A. In 3A, at Garing Catholic, Brebeuf and Attucks. When they played back on January the 31st, Brebeuf got them by a single point.
You know, the big theme, I think, so far right now has been we've talked about difficulty in scoring. And these are two teams that really defend you. These are two teams that have great quickness at all 5 spots. They have, I think, an intensity about them at both ends of the floor that makes this an interesting game. We talk about low-volume possession games. I think Brebeuf Jesuit is certainly in that category. I think Todd Howard has been fine with his guys. Simon Banks has played extremely well this year, big play player. This is a good game. This is a really, really good. Frankly, it may be, in terms of the quality of play, it may be as good as any game that's going to be played in the state.
Attucks, of course, 2 years ago were the 3A state champions. And in 2A, a couple of matchups locally to talk about. First of all, let's go up to Elwood. Lapel and Wapahani. Lapel and Franklin have both won state titles in the last 5 years. They're both in the same sectional. They're both in the same school corporation. It's Lapel and Wapahani tonight.
Well, the Lapel-Wapahani game is game number 2, but you look at Frankton, Wapahani, Lapel have all been ranked in the top 15.
And they've all beaten each other,
and
too.
they've all beaten each other. And so if you're not already there, you're probably not going to get a seat. You should have gotten there around noon to get a seat. I think the Lapel-Wapahani game's a toss-up. I really do. I think being at home, obviously, or not at home, but having Jimmy Howe as your coach, he's already in the Hall of Fame for a reason. He's won multiple championships. They're a team that's playing well. The Richardson kid is closing out a fantastic career like his brothers have done. So you give them the edge. But if it's the Lapel-Frankton matchup tomorrow night, just be ready for anything. That's going to be a fantastic game if it happens.
And the other game in 2A to talk about also is in Marion County. Park Tudor and Heritage Christian, likely favorites in their sectional. They'll face each other. When they played back in December, PT got about a 5-point win.
PT plays well defensively. Young team, very young team. I think one senior that gets significant minutes. The first time they played, it was a great ball game. I think it was on the road at Heritage Christian. Yeah. But again, expect a close game. These are two teams, again, really play well defensively. Pace is very important for both teams, but I think that's a fantastic matchup.
All right, so the sectional game that I will be at is the first one we talked about, that being Lawrence North and Warren Central. I get fortunate to have the television call on the ISC Sports Network. Bob is so integral on this Friday night of sectional semifinal night. We're keeping him right here in the studios. Of course, you'll hear him statewide on Network Indiana and on 107.5 FM, 1070 The Fan, and even 93 WIBC with 128 winners crowned. They get to play for a sectional championship tomorrow night. We'd love to see you at whatever game that you go to this evening. Include us on social media as well. Hit us up, whether it's at Coach Bob Lovell, at Greg Rakestraw, at 1070 The Fan. Show us where you're taking in Hoosier Hysteria this evening. For Coach Lovell, this is Greg Rakestraw. We'll do it again next week with a regional preview right here on the YouTube channel at 1070 The Fan.